You are not lost because the world is complex. You are lost because every road looks true. Welcome. Today we're diving into the model thinker. Now, the model thinker isn't just about collecting more clever mental lenses. No, the model thinker asks a much colder, much sharper question. By the time we finish exploring The Model Thinker by Scotty Page, you'll see exactly what your favorite explanation is actively hiding from you. Scotty Page wrote this book for a world absolutely drunk on data, offering a real discipline for thinking before your certainty hardens.
You are not lost because the map is blank. You are lost because every road looks true. Like I just mentioned, this book is not about hoarding mental models like trophies. It's about looking at your absolute favorite, your most trusted explanation, and asking yourself, what is this actively hiding from me? Because honestly, that's where the real danger lies.
Let's be completely honest with ourselves for a second. Your problem isn't the lack of insight. I know you read, you optimize, you constantly refine your strategies. But your core problem? It's a choice between elegant drift and a load-bearing architecture. You keep adding new nodes, you rename projects, you tighten up your schedules, but you're trying to build a room with no load-bearing wall. It's all just elegant drift.
This brings us to a huge concept this book calls controlled loss. Think about this for a minute. Your strongest mental model is actually the source of your drift. Crazy, right? But why? Because every single model clarifies the world by deleting parts of it. It deliberately cuts away detail to leave a manageable shape. That deletion, it's incredibly useful, but it's also violent. And that deleted space is exactly where your hidden risk lives.
I want you to just pause for a second. Think of your last really hard choice. You had reasons for what you did, right? They weren't fake, but they were partial. They kept multiplying because each reason asked to become the whole room. So let me ask you a terrifying question. What if your clarity is just a well-lit blind spot? What if the frame that calms you down is actually the very thing narrowing your vision?
Now, I know exactly what you might be thinking right now. I already think in models. I just need the right one. I hear this all the time. And it sounds so mature, doesn't it? It completely rejects vibes in favor of structure and math and solid proof. It says that better tools make better choices. And up to a point, you're right. But let's walk that logic right into a trap.
Here is that trap. The right model becomes wrong when it gets asked to do every single job. Remember, a single model has to simplify the world. It must leave things out. But in doing so, it also leaves out danger. This perfectly explains why totally directionless people rarely feel empty. No, they actually feel incredibly busy, because they are endlessly optimizing inside one single convincing frame that just cannot carry the weight of their choices.
Scott E. Page gives us a much sharper move in this book. Don't ask which model is true. Ask what each model makes visible. A model of incentives, that reveals pressure. Networks reveal position. Game dynamics reveal strategic fear. Distributions reveal variance. And feedback loops reveal drift. Literally none of these is the whole world. We have to treat every single model as a controlled loss of texture.
So we face a pretty heavy dilemma here. You can pick one model and move fast, which looks totally reckless. Or you can gather models endlessly and never actually move, which looks safe. Most people feel this trap so deeply. But here is the secret. Both of these options mistakenly think that building an architecture means creating more motion. It doesn't.
The opposite of confusion is not certainty. It is disciplined plurality. Look around online. Mental models have basically just become identity badges. People use them as shortcuts so they don't have to look closer. But a real model, it's a small machine. It takes assumptions in, produces implications out, and tests them against reality. It's not about finding the one perfect lens. It's about holding multiple lenses at the exact same time.
Picture a builder staring at one perfect, highly polished steel beam. They trust it completely, but the roof sags anyway. Why? The beam was real, but the building was incomplete. When your models clash in the real world, the goal is not to force an early consensus. The goal is to assign load paths. You need to build a council of perspectives.
And this brings us to the core paradigm shift of the book, many model thinking. We absolutely must stop asking for the best single lens. Instead, we need to build a disciplined practice, a sequence of tests where we run a council of models. And in this council, disagreement isn't noise. Disagreement is crucial information.
These models perform very specific jobs: reason, explain, design, communicate,
Act, predict, and explore. That's the red cape framework. Smart people start to drift when they ask one single model to do all 7 of those jobs. You cannot use a prediction tool to make a moral choice, or a design tool to explain grief. You need role discipline.
When you start comparing different models, you're left with something called residue. This is the part of the problem that no single model handles well. And listen closely to this. The residue is not a failure. It is literally the edge of your learning. It is your request for the next model. Tracking your residue is exactly how you avoid repeating that same confident drift.
To rely on a single model is hubris. That quote by Scott E. Page is the absolute anchor of formal humility. Think of many models not as many differing opinions, but as different physical positions in a courtroom. If you only stand in one single place, you only ever see what that one witness sees. You have to physically move around the room to see what got missed.
When serious people get lost, they often make a choice that creates deep dread. They either collect more data, which is really just noise without a model, or they hoard more models without a governing question, which is mere theater. Neither of these builds a load-bearing architecture.
Here is a razor-sharp truth for you. A model that cannot be wrong cannot help you. The pain you feel in decision-making, it isn't ignorance. It is unranked possibility. What this book does so brilliantly is make your uncertainty legible, rather than pretending it can magically remove it completely.
Let's apply this rapidly to a real scenario, like a career choice. Don't just use a simple pros and cons list. Run a council. What gets rewarded? Well, that's your incentive model. Who sees your work? That's your network model. What future paths stay open? Options. What role is addictive? Identity. What breaks first? That's your failure model. See that? Suddenly the fog is gone and the decision has actual structural shape.
So here are your operational rules. When models agree, move. When models conflict, inspect your assumptions. And when reality rejects all of them, you have to update the question. I know updating the question hurts, but the model thinker makes that uncomfortable ground negotiable.
Make one's mind large enough for paradoxes. Let's tie all these threads together. Your strongest model causes drift because it is lonely. It needs counter-arguments. The real skill of a strategist isn't perfect prediction. Now, the real skill is staying brutally honest when your prediction inevitably failed. Brightness is no longer proof. A mind trapped with one model is simply trapped in an elegant cage. But multi-model thinking, that is an act of moral hygiene. It forces you to constantly ask, what just got erased by this perspective? Who or what is exactly outside the frame?
All right, I'm giving you a 24-hour hard deadline to put this into practice. Step 1. Write down one real pending decision. Step 2. Run it through 3 completely different model families. Step 3. Name what each model hides. Find that residue. Do not fight your biases with shame. Fight them with the architecture of 3 stranger models before tomorrow. The goal here is not cynicism, and it certainly isn't delay. The goal is better contact with reality through rigorous structure. So take action and access your growth map at UpGoWise. Make your uncertainty legible.
Use many models, not one. Will you keep drifting in an elegant cage, or will you build a council that can actually withstand reality? You have a 300-second window right now to open a note, write one choice, run 3 models, and find one missing variable. Start the assignment before the signature fades.